brief history of the why that was changed. About 10 years ago, when the online programs were created, they were proposed to be taught in 7-week modules rather than the whole semester. So because of that, the I-grade policy was added for just online programs, which basically made a module a semester, equivalent of a semester, so that an I-grade had to be changed within the next 7 weeks of completion of the course. And during that last 10 years, a lot of programs, at least the ones we have in business college, also moved to 7-week modules for on-campus students. And part of that is when the online programs are small, we do cross-enrollment, which allows to cross-enroll students on campus in the courses in the online sections. So basically, we have now 7-week modules where on-campus students and online students are taught. So 2 students, one is online and one is on campus, both get an I-grade. One of the students in the class gets a whole semester, the other student gets only 7 weeks. That's a kind of inequity we're trying to fix by going back to the original version of the I-grade policy to give everybody a semester to resolve the issue with incomplete. I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah.
How would it work if a person is 7 modules and about to graduate? Like you extend it to the other time? I don't know.
But I mean, if somebody is in on campus and in the last semester and graduates, he has the same issue. I mean, you to graduate, you have to complete that, whether you're in a semester or in a module. Yeah.
One possible issue is to have a student who received an I-grade at the end of the first spring module. They're actually getting more time than an on-campus student would get who doesn't get their I-grade until May, until the end of the full spring semester.
No, they know at the end of the first module, if they're on that same course, they know at the end of the first module they get their I-grade also. We tell the students that they are on Moodle, they know that they are incomplete.
No, I know. What I'm saying is if they get an I at the end of first spring, they get the second spring module and the summer and the fall, according to the proposed catalog statement. So that student gets more time than an on-campus student who doesn't receive their I until the end of the spring semester.
Yeah, the student, let's say 2 students, one is on campus and one is online, they take the first spring course in the 7-week module. They both get a grade at the end of the 7-week module. That is in Moodle.
That's if for cross-enrolled students, I understand, but if you have a student who's on campus in a normal class,
yeah,
the policy for them is they get until the end of the subsequent semester.
right.
But if you have a student who's in an online class who ends in first spring and they get an I, they are essentially getting more time than an on-campus student. Whether they use it or not is not the issue. It's still not the same.
Well, I mean, we can't solve all the problems, but definitely I think 7 weeks is too short for somebody who is working and taking online courses.
I don't disagree
complete.
with that necessarily, but for an online student, if you were to give them 2 modules to complete the I instead of 1, that would essentially be giving them the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Like it's cross whatever
enrollment.
Yeah, a lot of us don't have that. We have a huge job.
You, like 1,000 people huge, so.
But yeah, we
It's-
still,
your
even,
point makes sense to me, actually.
even
Because
without, even without cross enrollment, I would suggest that it is too short to ask somebody who is working and takes online courses to complete something in 7 weeks.
Yeah, they're two different, I appreciate it. I'll sign on, but it's two different schedules. As you guys already know, so maybe I'm just stating the obvious. I understand it for cross enrolled, but I don't understand it for, we have straight up online students. A semester doesn't even translate. It doesn't translate. It's
Yes,
7 weeks. I appreciate what you're saying about
Each
fairness.
semester has 2 modules. There is still a semester. LSU still has semesters.
But-
We have 2 modules in each semester.
Okay,
2 in the spring, 2 in the summer, 2 in the fall.
okay,
Why don't we treat a semester like a semester for everybody?
because we don't.
Also in the summer, the modules are only 5 weeks. They're not 7 in the summer. Not that that necessarily matters, but they're not 6.
Yeah,
Just to clarify a point, there are not 6 7-week modules. There are 4 7-week modules and 2 5-week modules.
yeah, but in the summer, then it's even worse. You're giving an
Oh, I
online
agree. I don't
student only
disagree.
5 weeks.
I don't disagree with your goal.
Okay,
I'm just saying, if you're trying to make it the same for everybody,
Mhm.
an online student who gets an I at the end of spring 1 is getting more time than an on-campus regular student would normally get to complete their missing work. That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with the idea. It just, there's still an inconsistency there.
Mhm.
That's all I'm
right,
saying.
but it is still better than the current policy, I would
Sure, I'm
say.
all for giving online students more. That's who I work with primarily, so that's great. It's
Okay,
just not the same,
well,
but I understand.
Yeah.
The suggestion what I'm hearing is it gives same duration. So if on campus is a semester, the online should get 2 modules. That's it. So if we, instead of saying that the online I gets the full semester, just replace it with that he gets 2 modules because it's the same duration as your semester. So online is using the same language as the online, and on campus is using the semester
Mhm.
language. So you just say anybody who's on registered on campus gets the next until the end of the next semester to convert the I grade to whatever. Otherwise, it will turn to F. Same thing for online. You get 2 modules.
yes, and
To
how,
finish it,
but
yeah.
how do you treat the summer? Because for on-campus students, when they make an incomplete at the end of the spring semester, they get the whole summer and the fall.
So online has to take the summer module. They can't take the summer off. Like this summer, that I
Okay.
don't understand the.
Well,
the-
I just want to get the online students just get the same, follow the same policy. Why do we have to make it complicated, more complicated than necessary? Because if you did that and call 2 modules, then we will still treat them differently over the summer because the policy for on-campus students is when you make an I grade at the end of the spring semester, you get the whole summer and the fall. If you make an I grade in fall, you get only the spring. And we should use the same policy for the online students.
It seems to me that you have incomplete in a class that goes January to March.
Thank you. Why should you then have until December to complete that incomplete? These are not the same situation. Do you see? I am all for giving students the same consideration for having them have equality, I guess, in terms of the amount of time that they get, but not the duration of time. Because if my students get an incomplete in the spring semester, that's in May.
Yeah.
And if they're trying to graduate in December, they have to take courses over the summer. They're not going to be working on my paper over the summer. And then they have to take their senior seminar and all of the rest of their, their finishing classes, their 4,000 level electives in the fall. So they have effectively less time. And I think that's what my colleague back in the back was saying. I'm sorry. I
Well,
didn't know your name.
they have, if an online student usually takes the 6 entry points in the online program, 2 in spring, 2 in the summer, 2 in the fall. So an online student takes courses in the summer as well. All online students take courses in the summer. So on-campus students don't necessarily take courses in the summer. They have the whole summer potentially off. So
Potentially, but not most of them, I think,
yeah,
these days.
but I mean,
But
we're
but see, the
trying.
online students have a grade on March 5th. I just looked at the schedule for this semester, this module. They have a final grade on March 5th, and then they get 9 months to complete that. I mean, I think having 2 modules would be absolutely fair,
Yeah, but
because
what-
then they would
yeah.
complete it, mid-July? And that's, if you're talking about a first term grade in the spring, I mean, that's what
But why do
in-person students would have.
yeah, why do you give on-campus students the summer off to add the summer? You have always, I don't think we can make a policy that is fair to everybody. Exactly, because the modules there are 2 modules in each semester. Either you have a problem with the summer. If you give an online students 2 modules, then it's unfair to online students because the on-campus students get the summer off. The online students does not.
Right. If we're looking for clarity and equity, why don't we either stick to whatever your semester is? So if your semester's online, that's how many weeks it is. It's 2 sessions per in-person semester, or scrap it all and just have an actual number of weeks. Because this is very
Well,
confusing.
there's a whole other thing that the computer system,
But a semester
basically-
is a semester.
well,
Whether
the-
it's 16 weeks or
at the
8.
moment, the computer system just turns the grade for an online student into an F after 7 weeks, if it's not corrected. It would be easier to treat everybody with one policy, just following the semester. We still have semesters. There's a spring semester, the summer semester, and the fall semester. That a student who takes the first module finish it a little bit earlier. You have an on-campus student who is in cross-enroll in that course. He has the same. So how are we going to handle that? That students sit in the same course?
Why not switch the 2 modules to 1 semester? And then you can, I mean, that would seem equitable to me.
Yeah, I don't-
That's 1 semester and 1 semester.
I'm not quite sure that I understand.
Rather than have 2 7 terms, have 1 14-week term. With a midterm grade like we give in person.
You mean that the LSU online should change all the courses to semester courses?
I think what you're asking is for LSU in person to change the way we handle incompletes as well.
No, I just want on-campus student treated the same way as online students. And this policy, they're taking the same course. An on-campus student can take a course in the first module in spring. And if he gets an I, the current policy says he gets till fall, end of fall, to correct the I. The online student gets to the end of spring.
Can I ask a clarification question about the policy?
Yeah.
So with the one semester, let's keep it just to in person. The ones that they get one semester, is that one semester for which they're registered? Is that a caveat, or it's just one semester? Because to me, if you specify one additional semester for which they're registered, that levels the playing field regarding summer, because you either choose to register in summer or not, and therefore it counts in your time or not.
No, I'm not sure that the original policy before LSU online was added was if you get an incomplete in spring, you have until fall to correct it. If you get an incomplete in the summer, you have until fall. If you get an incomplete in fall, you have until spring. When LSU Online was added, the 7-week modules, the students are now taking first fall. They have only until the end of the fall, 7 weeks, to correct the I grade. But the student who's on campus who takes the same course in the same class, it's all online, and if he makes an I, he gets until end of spring.
So I understand the way it works because I teach business online courses
Yeah.
and in person. So I guess the question is, to get equity, can we refine the wording so that we're saying we give all students an additional semester to complete, semester, which is, or two modules to complete, with the caveat that it's a semester that they're registered for. So if they choose not to register for the summer, they have that additional time online, in person, right? And so it just, it makes it equal in that everyone gets a semester for which they're registered to complete the I.
This also may be that first spring teachers who teach online courses are going to be less likely to want to allow I grades, because essentially their students will get 9 months to make up that grade. And if you ask an online instructor who maybe they only teach one course and they teach it first spring every year, if they give their student an I, that student has 9 months to make up their missing assignments. That
Yep.
seems like an inordinate amount of time.
Yeah, but I want to remind everybody that that is a current policy for on-campus students.
But on-campus students' classes don't end in March.
They do.
If they're in a cross-enrolled class only.
But we have in our college, I teach in one of those online cross-enroll. I have 80 students in my class. 40 are from on-campus and 40 are from online. So it happens already that students on campus are treated that way, that they get, as you say, 9 months or whatever. That is a current policy. If you're an on-campus student and you are in those courses, you get that benefit. I just want to have students who are online get the same benefit. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking that we make kind of differences. We just want to treat the people in the same class the same way.
So I just had a Ed Shahada, sociology, criminology. I was going to just sort of agree with your proposal, but I've heard some really excellent points here that I hadn't anticipated. So since we're now getting into the weeds and so on, could I possibly move that we, I don't know exactly but I would refer it back to committee so that maybe you could discuss this with the sponsors of the proposal to take these issues into account. I don't know what the procedure is.
Yeah, so if there could be a motion to refer back to committee, which would send it back to Ash to work with Professor Schneider.
bring it to full back on the Senate, y'all go ahead. There's no need to send it back to Act.
Well, there is the option of the Senate, if the Senate wishes there to be more discussion, to refer it back. I mean, Ash can then dispose of it how they like, if it is referred back. I mean, the options available to the Senate at this point in time is to apply a subsidiary motion to handle the disposition of the motion to approve the proposal. So we could move to postpone indefinitely. We could move to amend the language here. I think amending it in this setting is inconvenient and cumbersome. If we believe that it requires amendment, the motion would be either to send it back to Ash or discharge Ash of this motion in particular, put together an ad hoc committee to handle this motion specifically. We could postpone indefinitely. We could postpone to the next meeting. So it really depends on what is the sentiment among the senators in terms of how they'd like to proceed on this. We could put it to the question and just have an up or down vote. And any motion would be in order at this point in time. And so Ed, do you want to withdraw your motion and perhaps offer a substitute motion? Or withdraw your motion and allow other senators to weigh in?
So my first inclination was just simply to refer it back to committee, given the points that have been raised, which are legitimate points. But given Ash's sentiment, I can understand they've been hard at work at this for a long time. So I'm going to withdraw that, and I'm going to move we table it indefinitely.
So we can either table or postpone indefinitely. Lay it on the table is temporarily take it off the agenda.
Table.
We can take it back up.
Okay.
Postpone indefinitely takes it off of the agenda for this session. We could bring it up at a later session, but it would then not be able to be brought up in today's meeting if we postpone indefinitely.
Then I move we table it. Yeah.
I think there was a question.
Well, we need to have a motion. I need to have a vote on the motion.
So, do I repeat? Yeah, the current motion is to table this and we proceed to vote, or do we discuss first, Dan?
I believe that the motion to table is not debatable, I believe.
Okay,
I don't believe the motion to table is debatable.
okay, so,
It's a straight up or down.
okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Well,
Yes,
It means to temporarily defer the motion, not to indefinitely
We'd have to,
Right.
if we vote no, we vote today. If you vote yes to table, we can take it off the table again at another point in today's meeting if we so choose. That would be what the consequence of the vote to table positive. Take it off of the business for now, move to the next agenda item. We could potentially take it back up later in today's meeting if the vote is successful. If it is not laid on the table, debate continues as it was previously.
okay, so the motion is to table it. And all those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Do we count them or,
Well, we
Yeah.
see first.
yeah, and then all those against say nay?
Rising vote.
So no,
We need a rising vote.
okay, so please, those who just said nay, please stand. And let's count. Yeah.
Sorry, nay?
Nay.
Nay,
Nay.
sorry.
This is
Never
nay.
mind, don't count me.
So,
It's against the motion to table.
yes, against,
Okay. And
11.
ayes.
and please sit down, nays sit down, and now ayes, please rise. Okay,
The ayes have it.
okay, the ayes have it, please sit. Motion is tabled. Okay, thank you so much.
I move that we revise the constitution century, so within the full 7 days, treat the final exam of a new semester.
A second?
Great, now discussion.
No, but yeah, our introduction.
Okay, so I have a quick introduction about concentrated study period, which was another proposal that was approved by ASH. So we did a quick history of Faculty Senate resolutions since this concentrated study period was conceived by this body in 1993. We thought that it made sense for this body to hear the latest revision. So resolution 9301, just very quickly, just as a summary, this is where the Faculty Senate created the concentrated study period. Then resolution 0206 is where the Faculty Senate recommended replacement of the catalog statement regarding concentrated study days to a policy statement clearer and more precise. And then resolution 1104 is where Faculty Senate recommended revisions to the policy introduced at the request of the Student Government Association to greater reflect the intended purpose of the concentrated study period and increase student capacity to prepare for final examinations. And then just for visual purposes, we have here the fall semester, how the current proposal will affect fall semester. So on the left is last November, and this is what we currently have: concentrated studies period starting on Wednesday after Thanksgiving. What is being proposed on the right is for concentrated study period to begin on Monday instead of a Wednesday. So extending 3 days to 5 days. And I have one more slide here. So the only revision from the, it will involve just striking 5-day and replacing it with 7-day. Everything else in the catalog would remain the same. And I have invited Anna Catherine Strong and Calvin Felt from Student Government Association to come and just address any questions that you may have and perhaps give us more context. So Anna Catherine and Calvin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Calvin Feltz, a student senator from the College of Engineering. You might remember me from last semester where I came and spoke about the simple syllabus.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna Catherine Strong. I am the student body president.
So this is a proposal that has been working through student government for about 2 to 3 years now. It is to expand the concentrated study period from 5 days, Wednesday through Sunday, to 7 days, Monday through Sunday. We believe that this offers students a little bit of extra time to prepare for their final exams. While we do want to point out as well that there is language within the current rules and within the rules that we plan to implement that allow for faculty to go ahead and put assignments during that time frame if they list it on their syllabi. So essentially what we're looking at here, excuse me, sorry, it's been a while since I've spoken in front of you. I'm a little nervous. But essentially what we're looking at here is just expanding the current rules as they are. We're not making any other changes besides the length. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Hi, Ed Shahada, Sociology, Criminology. Just a clarification and then a question, if I may. Would I be allowed to give an exam during that period? Not a final exam, just one of my exams. If I had it on my syllabus, could I have it during that concentrated study period?
It is my understanding that any assignment that is listed on your syllabus on the first day of class can be administered during this concentrated study period.
We're sure? Because I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's just the language is projects, presentations, and papers.
Yeah.
It explicitly prohibits exams, quizzes, and other assignments.
So my concern, first let me say I'm just delighted to see students involved in student government and to be involved in faculty governance. So welcome here today. I appreciate you. It's great to see. It really is. So I think that this is during Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
in the fall semester. This might be workable in the spring, but even that, I might have some reservations, but for me in the fall, it's just a no-go. Thanksgiving week is a bust. And now we're talking about the entire next week would also be blocked off. So that's 2 weeks out of a 16-week semester, essentially, where it's kind of almost that I wouldn't be able to give any assessments at all. And then there's another week because of finals itself. And this is in South Louisiana where we have hurricanes and we'd lose it. We've lost 2 weeks. I remember when I've been here for 30 years, we've lost days, weeks. I couldn't imagine to have all that time lost, and forget the hurricanes for a second. So I really see a problem here. And also I give 3 assessments, 3 exams, and then I give my final. So I don't like to give finals on materials I haven't assessed. So it would force me to change my assessment style, and it would force me to reduce one of my exams, reduce the assessments by 33%. And then I would have to give greater weight to the final, which doesn't really help students. So that's a huge swath of time. It's a big ask, and I really have a problem with this. I'm not willing to say no, 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 but I'm afraid to say send it back again. So I don't know what to do, but I can't support this the way it is right now.
If I could respond really quick, there are 2, I wouldn't say they're perfect solutions, but you can, with prior approval from the Office of Academic Affairs through the current language, be able to administer that exam during the concentrated study period. Also, I don't know the format of your exams. I don't know if you'd like to administer them in the classroom, but theoretically, there is the possibility to put them, if you'd be okay with the remote exam, due on a Sunday, which would not be a part of the Thanksgiving break or of the concentrated study period. Now, that would be a change in format and probably, again, not a perfect solution. But there is still the route of going through the Office of Academic Affairs to get approval and putting that on the first week of the syllabus.
Yeah, no, I don't like to give my exams online anymore after COVID. I kind of learned my lesson. So, I'm kind of over that. That is the crescendo of the semester for me. And now suddenly it's like, nope, sorry, you can't sing. It's over. And so that's just too long. It's just, it really is. And I don't think all the negatives that I've mentioned are offset by 2 extra days of no assessment or a concentrated study period. Anyway, that's just my feeling on it. So
Thank you.
So we've been talking about, I'm Scott Baldridge in mathematics. We've been talking about this in the, about this resolution in the mathematics department. And instead of just being one person, this is now coming from the whole department. There's, again, several problems with this. And one of them was what Ed talked about, the 2 weeks plus Thanksgiving plus 2 weeks in the beginning plus Thanksgiving plus this full week. It really limits what math can. Math is something that you learn by doing it. So for example, eliminating homework, it says including to but not limited to test, exams, quizzes during this concentrated study period. It eliminates a lot of the pedagogy that we can use, that some of our professors like to use. So for example, giving quizzes at the end of the day is now eliminated as far as a checkup. So or assigning homework, and homework doesn't have to be something that has to be announced on the first day of class in a syllabus in mathematics, right? We're here, okay, now do this next set of problems for Tuesday, and you're eliminating that. So you're essentially just taking mathematics down to, it's going to be lectures the week of Thanksgiving and lectures the week of the final week. And that really limits us in the ability to have group projects or group activities, quizzes, daily homework, it's a pretty major ask. And I would also say that we've run into problems with makeup tests. For example, if you give an exam, say it's the spring semester, you give an exam in the week before the final week, and then you grade it over that week, and then you hand back the test. Well, sometimes people will say, well, I want a makeup exam. They didn't come to that Friday, and now we've actually gotten into trouble where they then come back to us and say, well, it's in the study period, so you can't give me a makeup exam anymore. And so we run into this problem. And so there's no way for us to actually give them a makeup exam because it hits this concentrated study period. If you add into that again, some of the pedagogy in mathematics is that you give them the test is a learning tool, and then they take it, and then oftentimes we ask them, well, go back through the problems and you know, at your leisure, give me back the test with the corrected problems. That's now a problem, because if you give that test on the Friday before the final week, now you can't actually, that's an exam that you can't actually collect on the next week. So again, we're not a big fan of even, there's people that are not fans of even the 3 days, because it's hindering how they do their pedagogy. But it's even worse if you do the whole week. And one final statement. Two more. Instructors, we also have this problem of instructors have windows for online assignments. So we have online assignments that the kids have to take, and then you have to set dates by which time those assignments are. That's now gone for 2 full weeks. Again, this is all. We love that you're here. We're happy that you're talking about these and thinking about this. But when you hit the mathematics department that is teaching a huge percentage of the students every single semester, you're actually limiting what we can do pedagogically, and so this becomes a problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. Again, we really appreciate the feedback from the faculty. This is the body where we'd like to hear your opinions and how this affects you. So thank you.
So my understanding is the concern is adding 2 days. So Monday and Tuesday after Thanksgiving, there would be no classes and assignments due. Would it be too complicated to push the semester a week further into December so that the students have a full dead week, and that week after Thanksgiving, depending on when Thanksgiving falls, assignments could still be due? Because other SEC schools do this where the assignments are later in December and the students are given a full week off before their assignments. But I don't know how complicated it is, so I was just asking.
I don't believe that would be within the scope of anything that we're doing currently. That would be a conversation that would have to happen within another resolution. But I do appreciate the proposal.
Hi, Meredith Gallio, College of Art and Design. So this is more of a clarification question. Truly, in the College of Art and Design, typically we run our reviews, which mean that the students are giving presentations on their work that week. So it's their architectural work, their art design work pinned up on a wall, and they're giving a presentation. This is kind of their final exam that week. So I was wondering, as far as the particular language is concerned, would that count as a presentation? We certainly do not call them exams. They are indeed presentations, but they are also kind of their exam. So I was just wondering what the architecture students or design students on the council kind of said about that.
I believe that would be are you asking like if that counts? You're asking if that counts?
Yeah, I'm asking because the way our school calendar works typically is the students work really hard to get those presentations out of the way. And then during exam weeks, they have their other classes exams. So it's kind of like the way that our
entire calendar is laid out is that that particular week, students do presentations, and then that's like, we won't have kind of like, to get all of the students pinned up on the wall even, to do it before Thanksgiving would also be very difficult. So I was just wondering if it counts as presentation, that would change my vote. If those counted as presentations, then I have one opinion. If those do not count as presentations, I would have another.
So that would be up to the decision of the Department of Academic Affairs.
Okay.
But it is my understanding that that would be a presentation.
Okay.
But again, that would be a definitive decision would come from the Office of Academic Affairs.
Okay. All right. What does it say? I'm sorry. If projects, right. I was just wondering, technically this is their exam. It's not called an exam. Okay. Okay. So it just has to do with language. Okay. If it just has to do with language, I understand. I'm talking about like the actual underlying purpose of that thing. So, okay, great.
Hi. Thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Just something to put like on your radar is that another group or body of people that you'd have to talk to give a heads up if this gets approved is definitely athletics. Looking at the calendar from last semester, it appears women's and men's basketball both placed a game prior to the study period, weighted, and then after. So they would also, speaking specifically, the men's basketball played on the Tuesday that you're trying to extend into. So just a heads up, I'm sure that they can go to academic affairs and get approval, but that would be another body of people that you'd have to give a heads up to if this does get approved.
Thank you.
So, and hi, I'm Rosemary Peters Hill from French Studies. I teach, generally speaking, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Can we go back to the slide with the 7-day period from November? Thank you. Okay, so if you look at November 23 over here in the current configuration of the calendar, Tuesday the 21st is right before the Thanksgiving holiday begins. Thursday the 23rd is off. That's Thanksgiving Day. Perfect. I have taught my Tuesday classes that day before the Thanksgiving break to 2 students because the other 13, 15, however many are already gone. Okay. If I could be gone, I would also be gone. And some, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. It's not a distant memory being a student. Okay. I mean, distant in chronology, but not distant in memory. So I am very reluctant to say, okay, look, you can have your Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And then also you can just stay wherever you go for the whole next following 7 days. Because that is what we're looking at. To me, the result of changing this so that we have Thanksgiving holiday, basically 4 days of that week, if not all 5, and then the following 5 days of the next week of 7-day concentrated study period, is that we have shortened our semester to 14 weeks. And that is very problematic in what I do. And you know, with mathematics, I mean, our formulas are slightly different teaching language, but it's all accumulative. It all builds on what you learned the first week and then how you incorporate that into what you learned the second week. And by the 14th week, they have so many concepts, but they need review and they need practice. And we don't get that if those 2 weeks are gone. So that's one thing. That's all.
Thank you.
I just wanted to piggyback for a second on the person that brought up the athletic events in the fall. I'm also curious about that same issue for the spring, because if you look at the spring calendar, there are a tremendous amount of events in May that take place during that week before exams. So I just wondered if that had been considered or if that had been looked at. That's all.
For most edge cases like that, we've assumed that that will go through the Office of Academic Affairs as listed as an avenue for getting those exemptions. Currently, they find a way to do it. We did not think it'd be much of a concern for them to figure that out for those 2 days as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charles Delzell from the math department. I'm not a senator, just a faculty member here today. But I was interested in the history of the dead week policy or concentrated study periods, so many syllables. I'm used to the old dead week terminology. It's so short. But it's not just a matter of how many days of dead week we have, but what the rules are during those days. And I wanted to explain a little more history. Before the 1987 catalog, there was no mention at all of any dead week or concentrated study period. So the catalog first had a statement in 1987-88 catalog, and there it said normal classroom activities are not affected by dead week policies. So in other words, you are free to give all the tests you wanted right up until the last day of class in 1987-88 catalog, and they called that dead week. What it meant was no extracurricular activities, no sports, no whatever other student activities there might be, but the classroom was allowed to continue. Then the Faculty Senate in 1993, as you said, first imposed a limit, and it said during this time there shall be no required major examinations in academic courses. Major examinations, that allowed quizzes, minor examinations, homework, or something else. That was all allowed during those days, whether it's 5 days, 7 days, 3 days, doesn't matter. And then the Faculty Senate the Faculty Senate adopted that in 1993, and sure enough, the catalog reflected that the very next year. Then in 2002, the Senate clarified it some more. And again, it's important to know what the rules are during these days. Then it said graded required coursework, including exams, quizzes, and homework, may count for a total of at most 10% of the student's grade in the course. Okay, this is the first time we have a percentage, 10%. It used to be no major exams. Now it's 10% of all your coursework can be done all the way through, whether it's 5 days or 3 days, it doesn't matter. And that was adopted in the catalog the next year. So the administration is following the lead of the Senate, which is good. Then in 2011, as you said, the student government asked the Senate to reduce that 10% to 5%, which the Senate did. And sure enough, the next year's catalog said no more than 5% of a student's grade can be done during those last 3 days or 5 days of the semester. And so far, everything's going in a normal manner, I think, procedurally. The Senate proposes and the administration executes. And that's how I think it ought to be. But then, for some reason, and I invite everybody to tell me if you know the answer here, starting in the 2017 to 2018 catalog, with no resolution from the Faculty Senate that I can find, then it dropped the 5%, which used to be 10%, which used to be no restriction whatsoever, 100%. Now it drops it to 0% in the 2017. What did it say? It said only if you have announced a project on the first day of class can you assign it at that time. Okay, there you can work on it all throughout the semester, but in a math class, as Professor Baldridge said, sometimes you can't work a problem for the last chapter of the book if you haven't yet read the first several chapters of the book. So it doesn't make sense to say, well, the student was working on it from the first day of class. He couldn't have. So that was, maybe somebody knows if there was some faculty support for this rule change in 2017. I would like to abolish that rule and go back to something that the Senate has approved, either the 5% or the 10% or none at all, whatever you prefer. But then, yes, another factor is that the current policy lists explicitly 4 exceptions: lab courses, graduate courses, semester-long projects, and class participation grade. But if you're going to enumerate 4 specific exceptions, then you ought to enumerate all specific exceptions explicitly. For example, makeup tests. If a professor gives a test and the student says, I need a makeup, and the professor says, well, when do you want it? And he says, oh, during the exam, during the final, concentrated study period. And he said, well, I have to get permission from the provost for that. Why is that necessary? It ought to be mentioned here expressly as an exception. I mean, it's fine if the one professor has a secret conversation with the provost and gets permission, but what about all the other professors? Why do they have to all have secret conversations? Why not just have a public policy? And finally, okay, fine. Finally, the rationale for this policy, starting in 2017, again, that was the year of where everything went bad. There it says to promote a learning-centered environment, comma, graded coursework is not permitted. Well, what is a learning-centered environment, I ask you? I talked to a colleague of mine, he's in the chemistry department, and he said, I guess when we give exams and quizzes, we are not promoting a learning-centered environment. Can you believe that I'm less than a year away from retirement and I'm just figuring this out? Just think of all the students I've wronged. Giving tests and quizzes are now considered anti-learning? I don't think so. So I say scrap that whole thing. Oh, and then the student government resolution, which is the basis for today's proposal, lists at the end 24 peer institutions. And I didn't have time to check them all today because I just found out about this a few hours ago. But I listed, and it lists next to each peer institution the number of days of concentrated study period. 5 days, 7 days, 2 days, 4 days, some number of days. But I tell you, that's not enough information. You need to know what are the rules during those 7 days or 2 days or 1 day. And sure enough, for example, here's University of Florida, which was on that list. In the fall and spring semesters, faculty members or instructors shall not schedule final exams or comprehensive examinations or assign projects or term papers during the period comprising the last 3 days of classes. Now, there was a Q&A, just to clarify, what does that mean, a comprehensive examination? So some professor asked a question. I will be holding a third exam for my class on the last day of class prior to so-called reading days. University of Florida calls it reading days, which I guess follow the last day of class. The exam is not comprehensive and covers only the last 1/3 of the course. Is that in violation of the policy? Answer, no, as long as the exam is not comprehensive. Written papers and oral presentations and periodic testing announced in the syllabus distributed on the first day may be collected and presented during the class during the last 3 days, blah, blah, blah. So that was, again, you look at the peer institutions and they are not having such a radical policy as this. And I looked at 3 others. I didn't have time to check them all. University of Alabama, they have a pretty good policy. They say it prohibits all other examinations and extended assignments during study week. They call it study week, except extended assignments in which students have been given advance notice. And it says routine assignments, including homework, readings, and quizzes are permissible. Well, that's good. That's better than what we've got here at LSU as far as the faculty is concerned. Maybe for the students, it's not as good, but then the University of Arkansas, I don't remember, I can't. Oh, well, here's Auburn University is also on the list. And what they call it is study/reading days. Well, what are those days? It's said to be 2 days. Okay, how do you compare 2 days to our 3 days? Well, those 2 days are Saturday and Sunday after the last day of class. So you can't give a test after the last day of class. But basically, give a class, a test up to, as I read it, maybe I'm misreading some of these catalogs. So I rest my case. I defer to the next person. I think it needs further study, maybe another meeting next month, or I don't think it should be approved as is.
Yeah, can we call to question? Yeah, I move to call this issue to question.
Second.
Okay. We need, we're gonna take a vote and we need 2/3 and this ends the discussion. Okay, so all those in favor to end this discussion, please say aye. To finish the discussion, to call the question.
If we call the question, debate ends, we immediately proceed to a vote on the main motion. It requires 2/3 vote in the affirmative.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Those against say nay. Abstentions? Okay, so now we move the question to the,
Vote on the original
we moved to the original motion, which was to consider
to revise it to 7 days.
to revise it from 5 days to 7 days. Okay, all those in favor to revise it from 5 days to 7 days, please say aye. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. Yeah, once.
No, you can't. No, sorry. Once the question has been called, you can't postpone to a later date.
Okay, so all those in favor to change as proposed from 5 days concentrated study period to 7 days, please say aye. Okay, and those against say nay. Those who want to abstain, please abstain. Okay, it seems like nays have it. Okay, so Motion doesn't pass. I'm sorry.
I do want to thank you all for your time and letting us come and speak. Hopefully in the future, we are able to find a different proposal that satisfies both the needs of faculty and the wants of students. But it was great to speak to you all. So thank you all for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Kelvin, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, now to lighter topics like campus safety. We're so pleased to have Marshall Walters, Interim Chief of Police here, accompanied by CJ Avory, Associate Director from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. They will give a short presentation on our safety on campus, and we'll entertain some questions. So thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon. My name is CJ Avery. I'm the Associate Director of the Office of Emergency Preparedness on campus. Some of you may receive emails from me every now and then for different weather hazards and things like that. I do understand that in December, our Vice President, or Assistant Vice President, Michael Antoine was here to speak to you. So I'm just here today to give you an update on some of our initiatives that we have ongoing and that we will be taking on throughout the year, including hurricane season. He went over the purpose the last time he was here. We in my office do our emergency planning for the campus as a whole. We also conduct comprehensive assessments for potential hazards and risks that could affect the campus today or in the future as well. We provide training and education as far as our active shooter plan, for example. Also our medical response plan. All of these can be found on our website for LSU. And we also coordinate and communicate with various campus departments and also our external agencies like the Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and also the Governor's Office of Homeland Security. And with those agencies, we bring trainings here for those that may be interested in emergency planning, things like that. We do conduct drills and exercises. Late last year, I conducted the active shooter training. We did it via Zoom. It is available on our website. So you're able to go and read the training and also have the PowerPoints available to you. And we also, give the number to the NCBRT because they do an amazing active shooter drill for the campus if you request it. We continuously monitor the campus environment for potential threats, evaluating the effectiveness of emergency preparedness measures and adjusting plans as needed. Every year, our emergency plans for our office will be updated. When Mr. Antoine and I took over 2 years ago, we rewrote all of those plans. And now that we have them implemented and approved, if there are any changes, we go in and we make them, and then there are other departments that will submit their changes as well. A lot of times those changes are just names, people that may have left or new people that may have come. For those of you that are interested, you're welcome to come visit. We do have an emergency operations center. If we were to have a large-scale emergency, we would then be activated 24/7 until that event is over. So that's where I would be for the duration with about 25 other people, morning and night. We also coordinate with local, state, and federal entities if we were to need them to come in and assist us with any sort of disaster. We work with communications to coordinate the rave texts that go out that you may get if you have signed up for that. So anytime we have a weather event or campus is closing, a text will be sent out to notify you in a timely manner. Current plans that we have in place or our emergency operations plan, the coup plan, active shooter, the emergency medical response plan, and what is being implemented is the 911 cellular panic alarm plan. Some of you may be familiar with it. It is so our faculty members can have panic alarms placed on their computers. That way, if they were to be in some sort of incident, they'll be able to activate it so they can receive help. Some future plans. I'm currently working with Mr. Wilson at the River Studies Center, and we are hoping to implement a campus reunification plan. The campus evacuation plan is underway. We will be working with an external contractor for our LSU Tiger Stadium evacuation plan, load shed plan, and then we have a 120-hour sustainment capability plan that we'll be working on later on this year. Also in the future, we will be working with all campuses across the state. Currently, everyone is their own entity. And when I say currently, I mean for us as emergency preparedness. So my office will be working with each campus to design their emergency preparedness office. They will work under me, and we will help them write up their plans for their campus, because again, every campus is different. So that will be later on this year if anyone has any questions about that. We do work with different government agencies, currently working with Texas A&M. We're hoping to bring a training here that will assist people that are interested in designing their emergency plan. Now I can give you all the tools to do it and guide you through it, because every building is different. You know, to have the tools to be able to do that, it's a good training to go to. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned that the evacuation plan for campus is underway. So what happens if we have an emergency and we need to evacuate the campus?
So currently, there is a plan in place. We're redesigning it to make it more efficient. And that's where the campus reunification plan will come into play. Because if we do have to evacuate, especially our students, right, we want a place that's safe for them to go to. And that's why we're working with the River Studies Center, because it is large enough to be able to hold a certain amount of people. Of course, having checks and balances, obviously, with IT and PD, as far as, and also transportation and parking. For those that are unable to get to the River Studies Center, either by walking or their own vehicle, transportation will provide buses to transport our students there. But there are plans in place for evacuations. For each individual college, your dean, Mr. Provost, the dean of maybe that particular college should have an emergency plan in place for evacuation. I've spoken to a lot of the different colleges, and I have talked to them about helping them restructure those plans, because again, all buildings are different. You know, I wouldn't evacuate Coates the same way I would evacuate the student union, right? So I've offered to go and help with those plans, or even have those sent to me that are already in place, so I can look at them, and if there are any adjustments or things like that, I can help.
Okay. One more question. It's about people with disabilities. In case of emergency, how they are going to be helped? Like people who have disabilities to walk, to hear. So how do you track them in case we have an emergency here on campus? How do we help them?
So they should be signed up for the RAVE app.
Okay.
And as a faculty member, I mean, maybe the first day of class, I would make an announcement. My department has made little pocket guides that we'll be sending out to all the colleges. We'll send out the original PDF. Different faculty members can print it out. Again, it's a pocket guide. It's literally this big. And it gives you different phone numbers that you can call. And it also is for our students with disabilities as well. But the Rave app is a good, it's something good for them to be able to have, because, you know, if we do have an emergency, they'll be able to see it on their phone.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, hi, may I ask? I don't remember exactly what year it was. It was after my second son was born, so it's sometime after 2016. There was a bomb threat to the campus at about 11:45, I think. Yeah. And it took people 2.5 hours to get off campus. Have there been sufficient changes to the traffic structures on campus to make that actually a safe endeavor?
Yeah, so I was here for that one. I think it was 2011, 2012, somewhere along in there. Yeah. So there were some nuances with that one. There were specific to how the call came in and the timeline that we were given. We literally had less than an hour heads up to get everything rolling and operational. That day we had about 11 police officers on campus working. 3 of those were EOD canine officers with their dogs. So they were deployed to the schools to search them, the early education center. So, you know, you're automatically down with 3 there. So yes, we've done some planning. Infrastructure around here will always be a problem with traffic. I mean, you go look at a normal Monday and look at Highland Road, the traffic you're dealing with there. But there are plans, there's coordination with other agencies, and we're working through that with CJ's office now, so that if we have that event and we get enough notice that we can put, it won't look like a football game day, but we'll have a better traffic plan in place and we'll be able to get ahead of it instead of being behind it the whole time like we were in that previous incident. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, CJ, your colleague mentioned that there could be transportation like in certain locations off campus. And I think it might be worth investigating. Probably you've done this because this is your job and, you know, it's not mine, but the idea just came to me that maybe there could be buses on like Chime Street or State Street right there, so that people on that side of campus could get to them, so that not every single person on campus is trying to drive off campus at that point. And then some on Nicholson and some, you know,
And
et
that was the
cetera.
big concern in that bomb threat, right, was get everybody off, because our timeline was so short from when we were told that we could expect explosions to when we got the call. So yeah, that's part of the plan that we've gone through. The plan in place now has some of that. You know, but you also have to deal with residential students who are, you now have to move around. So buses will obviously play a huge role in that, but our main focus in that original bomb threat was get everybody off campus. And I think most students went to the bars and didn't mind. So that worked out good for them. But yeah, certainly we're looking at all of that as we make this next comprehensive plan.
And there have been a lot of changes as well, as far as certain directors that are no longer here. And I am part of a committee that interviews new directors, for example, the new parking and transportation director that will be coming in. So once he's in place, that will be a meeting that he and I will have in my office. Because again, you know, there are some plans that need to be rewritten. And those are some things that we're taking into consideration.
How is one last question. How is the construction taking place on campus be considered on your plans for evacuation? Because those are the things that really worries me.
Right. So, I mean, with the parking and transportation department, I get updates on what roads are closed and which ones are now open, right? Myself, and I have an emergency manager that works with me in my office. We look at those every day and we make sure that we have a list of them. That way, if we were to have an emergency, then we know who's going where. And also PD, I'm sure, knows which ways not to go and You know, I mean, we can't open a road that's obviously being worked on. So we have alternate routes. We have plans A, B, C, and D. So they are in place. That's what we do.
Buildings, but I don't remember since we have moved into the new engineering that we have ever had a fire drill. So I think it's sort of like a muscle memory. If you don't do these drills, you will forget even to how to react to an emergency situation.
Mhm.
And I'll recollect that start of the semester, we actually had a frozen pipes in the College of Engineering that burst, and then we had the flooding in the building for like all floors. Now, it's not the same level of emergency, but people don't even know where to evacuate, what areas to avoid. I think you may want to include even that the building coordinator level that we keep in practice.
Mhm.
Like it's not always active shooter or something. People should know where to get out of their offices in a flooding environment, fire situation, active shooter situation to a safe place.
Mhm.
And I don't think so we have practiced that at all. I don't remember. Anybody from engineering who remembers that we have had fire drills in the old SIVA building and we have not done anything? Patrick F. Taylor? Who else is from engineering here? Oh, yeah, just two of us.
Okay.
I
So
don't recollect that.
we have two committees, one of them being the Safety and Security Committee that we are implementing. And for our next meeting, I will bring that up to both ES&H and also facilities. And next week, I actually will be at the building coordinators meeting as well. And I will mention it. Again, every building, every college has an evacuation plan. So who has the plan? You know, there are some colleges that have sent them to me already and asked me to look over them. And there are some that I have not received anything from. I can't force someone to send it to me, but I'm willing to look at it. And if it needs to be rewritten, I'm willing to go and tour the building and help with that. All I can do is guide you and, you know, give you the tools that you need to make it happen.
Any other questions? Good, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Happy to report nothing in my presentation requires a vote today, so we should be moving through pretty quick. My name is Marshall Walters. I'm currently lucky enough to be serving as your interim chief of police here at LSU. Entering my 22nd year of service at LSU, and so been through a lot of things and recognize a lot of people out there, some new faces. So appreciate the opportunity to engage with you in this environment as opposed to a disruption in a classroom, a traffic stop, or some other negative event. A little bit about LSUPD for those that don't know. We function as a traditional law enforcement agency, police agency. Currently, we have about 55 commissioned law enforcement officers with about 25 support staff. Those numbers put us in the top 20 size police departments in Louisiana, not counting sheriff's offices and state police. So you know your police force here is very competent and very competitive with other agencies and the resources that we have. The specialties that we offer, but also understanding that it takes a different type of department to work in university law enforcement, understanding that we are a part of the educational process. And so we take that very seriously. We take it to heart at LSUPD. You know, we look at that when we're hiring new officers. We look at that when we're enacting policies, and anything that we do, recognizing that, you know, our biggest role here is to support the educational process. So a little bit of what we've done in the past year or so, we've been able to modernize the university's camera system. The previous version was each department was kind of responsible for their own cameras. And so they could decide, hey, I don't want to spend money on cameras. And so now their security system is 10 years old. You had departments like Residential Life that was very modern, kept them up to date. They used them all the time. So this new camera platform that we've partnered with and gotten support and the okay from senior staff, senior university officials, and C. Greg over there in the IT department to really build the infrastructure out before we built out the end user experience, which I was here when the initial process started with cameras, and it started with 4, and then it grew to 12, and then it grew to 30, and next thing you know, we're at 500. But nobody had really put thought into what did the back of that look like, the infrastructure side with ITS, the server, the storage, the bandwidth, all of those things that really matter when we need that footage. So it's been a great partnership. We now have a program in place so that every security camera on campus will stay modern, will stay up to date, have the newest technology, and function properly in those times that we need it. Another piece that we're looking at is adding LPRs. There's a project underway right now. LPRs are license plate readers. Currently, we have 2 on campus. We're looking at expanding that. It's a great investigative tool, but it's also a way for us to get notifications if there's persons coming on campus that we don't want to be here. So if we have a known threat, we have a subject that we believe we have credible intelligence on that they're coming to do harm, we can plug their vehicle information into that system and it will alert us if he comes past any of those points. So, you know, that we're excited about those. We think it's going to continue to develop our technology resources. And that's the modern day law enforcement is all technology driven. And so we're moving forward with that. Data driven policing is something that we're really just dipping our toes into. Looking at where our crimes are occurring, what time they happen has not always been easy. Our previous record management system where we input all of our data was a little bit antiquated. 3 years ago, we started moving into a new report management system. We're fully into that now and are working on the back end to be able to get that data in real time, be able to use it, look at how we're deploying officers, what time of day, where we're putting them, and those sorts of things so that we're not just aimlessly riding around waiting for things to happen. We can be proactive in what we're doing. We're currently on a shared CAD system. CAD is computer aided dispatch. So when you call for medical services, the fire department or police response, that dispatcher that you're talking to is entering it into a system so that that call is tracked. All the information is built into it. About 1.5 years ago, we moved on to a shared system with all of the EBR first responders. So the benefit for us is that we can see what the Baton Rouge Police Department is responding to. We can see what EMS has going on around us. We can see why that fire truck showed up on campus so that we can make sure that we're getting whatever resources we need to that incident and also be aware of what's going on around us, right? So we don't live in a bubble on campus. Highland's wide open, Nicholson's wide open. So for us to do our job properly, we have to make sure we know what's going on campus, but as well as the surrounding area, so that we can, you know, do as much to prevent, educate, and make awareness to our community to keep everyone safe. Along that same line of thought, we have biweekly violent crime unit meetings. Fortunately, we have very little to offer to that other than the intel that we gain by what's going on. We get daily incident sharing through that group as well. So if there's any major incidents that are occurring around campus that could potentially impact our community, we know about it in real time. We can plan for it, and we can put measures in place to ensure that our community stays safe. And, you know, we also participate with all of the federal task force that keep us in that same loop so that we're, you know, obviously we're based in Baton Rouge, but our students are from all over the world. And so having those federal partners that can help us leverage things, intel, they've also been able to help us when students have needs outside of the country to have those federal partners already engaged so that we can just be one phone call away from them. Again, education is a huge part of what we do. You know, we don't do syllabuses. We don't give tests other than field sobriety tests. But educating our community, and that's, you know, mostly aimed at our students. You know, we feel like life lessons can be an educational piece, and that's where we interact the most. Some of those have good consequences, some have bad. I know the provost gets all of the incident reports, so he sees what we're seeing almost real time. But, you know, general safety, you get students from all over the world that come in. And I grew up in a small rural town in North Louisiana where you never locked the door, the windows were always open. So getting them acclimated to how you need to live in Baton Rouge, always be aware of your surroundings, be responsible for your own items, those sorts of things. You know, we do a lot of table sits, informational fairs, and orientations early in the semesters to try to get that message across to students, as well as traffic safety. And, you know, we do community outreach events weekly where we're out handing out information. It may be pedestrian safety, you know, paying attention to crosswalks, put your phone down, pull your earbuds out, pay attention, general safety. tips, stuff like that. So we're always looking for opportunities to engage with the community outside of enforcement and just responding to calls for service. Information sharing. I know most of y'all are probably familiar or have heard at least a little bit about the Clary Act, but it's a federal act that mandates university law enforcement to provide certain information. So we have our daily crime log. If you go to our website, if you're ever curious about what happened the day before, you can go back and look, and it's every call that we responded to. It doesn't give you a lot of details on it, but it'll tell you the type of call, the time, and the location, and essentially the outcome of that call, whether we're still investigating it, whether we cleared it, or whether it was unfounded, meaning that there was nothing to it. And the other big piece is the annual security and fire report. We have to prepare that and publish it by every October 1st of every year. So each year you're recounting the past 3 year stats. So this year's stats will be 23, 22, and 21. But that's all information aimed at being transparent in what's going on campuses. Obviously, that came from a horrific incident and year-long fight with federal legislators and all. But I think we're at a point now where, you know, we understand why we need to be doing that as law enforcement, why we need to be sharing information so that students and families can make the right choices as they move off to school. I say that being a father of a sophomore at Mississippi State. That was one of the first things I looked at to see what their crime rates look like. And every university has to have it, so it's there for all. CJ mentioned a little bit about the active threat training. Lieutenant Bodine is actually an instructor through NCBRT as well. We've kind of tailored a course. The NCBRT started off with an 8-hour course, which is a long time to get anybody to commit to, especially during a semester or during the summer when you're recovering from the semester. So we've kind of tailored it. He's brought it down to about a 1-hour program that we can do, at least give you the base level of what you can expect from us and what you can do to hopefully help better your odds if you're ever encountered in an active threat situation. So we're happy to provide that if you want to do it at the college level, if you want to do it at department level, or if you have a classroom that you want to do that in. I'll give you information at the end on how to contact us. But if you're interested in that, we can do either a 1-hour version or we can do the full 8-hour version. We also offer self-defense. Most of our attendees are students. We're starting to see a lot more from their surrounding community come in, but we also are open to faculty and staff. So if anybody wants to participate in those, you can contact us for more information or just keep an eye out on our social media for when we're hosting those, and they're free of charge. The Shield app, how many of y'all have the Shield app downloaded on your phone or have heard about it? We usually have better odds in these settings than we do with students. It's a message that we try to get across every chance we get with the students to download the app. It's an emergency functioning app, but it also is a great landing page for resources that we offer. It's free. Anybody can use it. And the great thing about it is that you can contact us through text, essentially. If you don't want to pick up the phone and call, you can send pictures. But it also, if you hit that emergency button anywhere in the United States, it's going to act just like you called 911. So you're not just going to get in touch with LSU PD if you're visiting a campus in Mississippi and you hit that button there, it's going to go to the local county 911 center. That is a partner with the panic button that CJ mentioned. The same company provides it. And so we're working through the rollout phase of that. Again, kind of similar to the camera system. We don't want to get ahead and throw the button out there, and we haven't planned for everything on the back end. So that's a work in progress that should be coming soon. Here's some of our QR codes if you're interested in any of the parts we talked about and want to go directly to those. We have a website with a lot of information on it. But if you can't find anything that you're looking for or find what you're looking for on there, there's my contact information if you would like that, as well as our main information line. If you have questions you need answered, feel free to reach out to me. If you need the police, call that 578-3231 number. That's our main dispatch line, and they'll get you whatever you need right away. So that's it for the presentation. Happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, ma'am.
A wellness check. Thank you. For a student, and it was a wonderful experience for everybody. So thank you for that. So I think we have a very serious problem with scooters on campus. I mean, without exaggeration, I had to compose myself after almost being run over walking into Allen Hall by a student on full speed going across the walkway. And the student behind me screamed because he thought I was going to get hit. I would have been critically injured. He was going full speed and didn't even look back. So we have vehicles driving at speed on walkways constantly. The quad is a problem. I'm sure it's worse everywhere. Please tell me what is happening with that.
You're not going to like my answer. I almost built a slide on scooters because I figured that would be a topic of conversation. Unfortunately, in Louisiana law, they get basically carte blanche freedom to anything. It specifically says in there that they're not considered a vehicle. They can be driven on sidewalks. They have access anywhere a pedestrian can go. They have access. What we have done is worked with Spin, the scooter company, in the Office of Parking and Transportation. They can throttle down those scooters in certain areas. And we've done that in the quad in a couple of areas. If you're seeing key areas that are not on there, shoot me an email and I'll get with them and make sure that they put that in there. But yes, I agree. I think they are a problem, but there's not much you can do with them as far as enforcement goes because the state law is really kind of backed us into a corner with it. So the contract is not through LSU PD. Yes, I think that is probably an option. I don't really know who holds that contract, to be honest with you. The problem we're seeing now is that the personal ones are out there. It's not just the ugly orange ones now. It's all of the other ones. So yeah, I would think at some point there's got to be some conversations had about the where they can ride them and those sorts of things if there's going to continue to be a contract. The surprising thing, and correct me where I'm wrong, Lieutenant Bodine, we're not getting a lot of reports on it. I thought by this point we would have a lot of injuries, a lot of crashes, a lot of those things, but it's not being reported to us. The biggest thing we're seeing out of them is they're getting stolen. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any talk about widening and increasing the bike lanes on campus?
So PDC, Planning, Design, and Construction, manages that. They just went through a round of it. We're actually under works with some new signage and such on Skip Burtman. They redid Dalrymple and they did some on South Stadium. I think overall there's a mobility plan for campus that includes that. And certainly I will bring that forward the next committee meeting they have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually have one of those personal scooters that happens to be a very beautiful orange. Thank you very much. But it's I ride it from my building over to like Christ the King area. And there's a place on Dalrymple where the bike lane simply disappears and vanishes into the turning traffic.
Yeah, there's a couple of places like that on campus that just kind of dead end. Same thing with sidewalks. And I think this mobility study is looking at all of that as a whole and how we can kind of improve the flow through campus a little better.
Hi, I'm Kat Jacquet, AAAS in history. Is there any talk about putting more crosswalks? Like when I park in the commuter lot across whatever this very busy street is, and I kind of run for my life to get here. So are there any plans to like put more crosswalks or even just like, yeah, crosswalks or kind of signage so the cars know there's people?
Yeah, so again, Planning, Design, and Construction manages that. And I don't know that they've have anything right now specifically looking at South Quad. I'll put that on the radar so that they can look at it. Again, it's taken us a long time because Skip Burtman is actually owned by the state, is considered a state highway, that little stretch is. So it's taken a long time and a lot of resources to get all of that reworked so that it's safer for the students crossing from the parking lots. But yeah, I will bring that up on South Quad as well. And I think bringing awareness, visibility is key in those areas because you can have them all over the place. And the problem we run into that we see is the people that cross in between. If everybody went to a crosswalk to cross, it would be great. But yeah, certainly they're always looking at that. So I'll put that on their radar. I'm good.
What takes up most of your time?
So I would say, the two calls we deal with the most, just anecdotally, I don't have the stats in front of me. Thefts are always going to be number one on every college campus across the nation. And we're talking about cell phone theft, backpack theft, personal items that are left unattended that are not there when you get back. The other thing that we're managing a lot lately is, and I say lately, it's been the last couple of years, is student mental health. responding to calls for that. And, I think it's something that we prioritize because we recognize the severity of it, and, the outcome can be horrific if not handled properly. So, we deal with, I don't know, maybe up to 20 a week, I think is probably an average on what we're looking at right now. Not all of those require transport or intervention, but it's some form of, hey, I haven't talked to my daughter. Hey, this person is having this issue. And we're really good at understanding that and knowing where to push that information to get the resources that they need. The university has great support services for students. We just got to make sure they get connected with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I think you opened Pandora's box for me with mental health. Because we have had several incidents in the building that I'm working. It's Martin Woodring Hall, and it's the College of Ag, but it accommodates other units. And I don't think I am personally prepared. I'm aware of the procedure, but I'm not personally prepared to deal with this. So I don't know, I don't need to have another training because we are loaded with trainings after trainings and mandatory trainings. But so many times I have been in situations that the student did not want to confront, that's their language, with a police officer, because they had a negative kind of interaction with them, or they think that they are maybe they're on the right person to see. And again, this is humans with perceptions, how we approach things. So I was wondering if I don't want to take too much of your time, but if there have been any other concerns raised from faculty that we could use some support, or perhaps some presentations at the department level, because signage helps, having a person in the building helps, but sometimes I blocked out when I am the person that is there to first respond to a situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you aiming more specifically at mental health issues?
Yes.
Yeah. And so,
Especially during exam periods, that is when I face the most. And I had to deal a lot, just to give you a little bit of context, with TAs that they were there, whereas the faculty in charge of the class was not there. And it was their first time dealing with a student that was in a mental breakdown. And they were just trying to get help to see how they can deal with it, while as well being able to preserve a stability in the classroom so students can still continue to take their exams.
yeah. And so, certainly for us, our typical response is that there is some sort of crisis happening, right? So we're, how many are familiar with the Maxient system, LSU Cares? So that's the best resource to keep it out of a response side. But as it stands today, we are the only response mechanism that's going to come to you. And our officers are very good at handling it, but certainly we understand that not everybody's comfortable interacting with a person with a full uniform on and a badge and a gun and all of those things. So that's part of conversations that will be happening going forward. There's lots of universities that are doing unique things. It requires staffing, it requires a good plan and all of those. But right now it's either submit it through LSU Cares, help them get to the student health center, or call us, and we're going to be that window to get them the help they need. Yeah.
Well, thank you for all the questions. We have one more guest, so if we could just move.
Email or call if you want, I'll answer. So, I think positive for us is that as you look around the nation, and you hear what's going on in law enforcement. You saw that the governor just declared a state of emergency in law enforcement, all related to hiring and being able to retain officers. We're not immune to that, but we're certainly not as affected as other areas. We have a lot of attractive benefits that we can offer that certain agencies can't. And so as far as hiring and retention, we're doing a pretty good job of that right now. I think you have a very highly trained police force that's ready to respond if you need, but that also understands the unique environment that we work in. Not every recall requires a hammer. So I think, those are all positives to me. So.
Thank you so much for being here and for your time. I really appreciate it. Well, last but certainly not least is a Workday student. So we're joined by Clay Benton from your University Registrar, Robin Ethridge, Executive Director of Enterprise Architecture, and Ryan Landry, Assistant Vice Provost for Policy Administration, is going to give you a quick update on Workday student. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I see some familiar faces, but I want to introduce myself again. My name's Clay Benton. I'm the University Registrar, but I'm here today in my role as the functional lead for the Workday student implementation. So the Workday student implementation is system-wide. So it is not just the A&M campus, but we're also doing this with Eunice, Shreveport, and Alexandria. So today is going to be the first of many conversations, right? So we're going to run through a few things on the timeline and then really focus on our change management efforts. But before I get to that, I want to let Robin and Ryan introduce themselves real quick.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Because we have a brief presentation, Clay's going to take it and then Ryan. But I work for Craig Woolley in ITS. I serve as the Deputy CIO. I've been here for 30 years. I recognize a lot of you. We're really excited about this. We've been working on it for a long time and excited to be where we are. So I hope you will be as well.
Thanks. And again, Ryan Landry. I work in the Office of Academic Affairs for the Provost, and here today in my capacity as the Organizational Change Management Lead for the Workday Student Project.
All right, so this is a very busy slide, and I'm sure we can email this out. There's a version of it that's on the website as well, but I wanted to kind of walk through the timeline to let you guys know where we are with this project and where we're going, because I think that's really important to level set things. So on this, you see two timelines, a top timeline and a bottom. Really, our focus is on the top line. That is cohort 1, which is the LSU A&M campus, along with the LSU Eunice campus. So our two institutions will be implementing at the same time, with Alexandria and Shreveport following 1 year later. So there is a little bit of a lag there before they will be moving into production. For us, the important thing to look at and the thing that impacts you guys is really the move to production. When do you guys function in Workday? And then we move backwards from there to make sure you guys are prepared for what will come with Workday. Our first move to production is this August. But before anyone gets nervous, that is strictly looking at admissions, recruiting, and financial aid packaging for incoming students. So it is not looking at anything curriculum-based, program-based, student records-based. It is all outward pulling in prospects. LSU A&M has decided to maintain Slate, so we will not be using full Workday functionality. So by and large, a lot of the move to production 1, most people on this campus won't even know that it's occurred. It's foundational work. It's pieces to get ready for the real transactions that will be coming starting next year. So spring of 25 is our second move to production, and that's when students will move in, courses will move in, programs of study, all of those pieces that impact the academic core of what we do. The actual piece that students will start transacting is really this line up here. It's a 4 up there at the top. I wish I was taller. But that is when students will start building schedules for summer and fall of 25. So it's kind of we're stair stepping into the summer is really the first term where courses will live in Workday Student. So the rosters will be in Workday Student, the grading will be in Workday Student. That's really kind of the line in the sand. One of the things that I want to just say right off the bat, though, is Workday Student is going to change the way a lot of us do work, but a lot of it is going to be student and administrator focused. Faculty, we're not replacing the LMS as part of this project. So if you interact with your students through Moodle, you grade through Moodle, and you send that over, the biggest impact to you will be how you submit your grades. That doesn't mean there aren't things you can take advantage of in Workday. You'll have more information on your students. You'll be able to communicate with them through your roster. There's things that you can utilize, but for faculty, you know, currently we probably have less than 2% of faculty that log into the mainframe and view information there. You're using the LMS. That won't necessarily change. You'll have more options, but you won't have to rely on Workday. You will still have the LMS to help you along. I could talk about the timeline for a long, long time, dive into all the details, and we will have more sessions where I come back. But today's session, we're really going to focus on the change management piece. This is something that as part of this project, we made it a priority. We wanted to make sure that we weren't doing this in a vacuum, that we're making sure that people all over campus, all 4 campuses understand what's happening, and that we're making sure that you know what you need to know as we go through the project. So I am going to let Ryan take it from here and talk a little bit about our change management strategy.
Thank you, Clay. So in my permanent role here, working with Provost Haggerty, I spend a lot of time thinking about how our administrative processes and policies can work in the best way possible and be configured in the best way possible to support the core mission of the institution. And within that sort of lens, it's helped me from a change management perspective to really think about, on a very high level, our goal from a change management team is to plan, develop, and then deploy resources that will allow faculty members to do what they need to do in a straightforward and as simple as possible manner in the student information system. And then frankly, if I could be, stay immersed in the teaching, the research, and the service activities that you're doing, because that's at the core of why we're here as a university. And so I'm glad here to be able to give you really a briefing on some specifics of what we are doing in this change management work stream. The slide here gives you an illustration to just show that there is a theoretical framework behind what we're doing. And that goes from being in the stage of unaware and uncertain, and then guiding the institution as a whole through better understanding, and then reinforcement of new skills, ways of doing things learned, and then taking ownership of the system. Staying along the line of just kind of that theoretical framework, Clay gave you a robust timeline just now. This also is just an illustration that can help with just sort of understanding some of what our big goals are for change management. And truthfully, that is really this bridge here. We acknowledge that this type of change, because it's so all-encompassing as our new student information system, change itself can be difficult, and there is a human component to that. We want to recognize that, be sensitive to it, and again, work as a team to usher our entire community through this important transition process. So to get to some specifics, Clay did mention that the institution has invested for the student information system. The Workday student project has invested in developing a specific work stream that's congruent to our other, what we call functional work streams, such as financial aid, the course scheduling system, admissions, those types of things. We also have the organizational change management work stream. And we think about it as a sort of 3-legged stool a bit. First, there's organizational readiness, which I like to consider the intake valve of our efforts, right? That is making sure that our team, who is doing the work to develop these resources, understands as best as possible where the institution is at on a multidimensional level. Next is communications, and that involves, I like to kind of call communications and engagement. You are seeing one of those examples right now, this engagement effort with the Senate to keep you updated and abreast on what we're doing. And then finally, the training component. Change management is not just about training. And what I'm seeing now, Clay and Robin and I have talked about this a bit, is that our communications efforts and our training efforts, as specific pieces are becoming more and more developed as we move closer to that full launch, communications and training are becoming increasingly intertwined for a unified change management effort. So our team right now consists of myself. Nancy Creel is with Deloitte and has been subcontracted through Workday to serve as an overall change management consultant. She actually comes to us from Yale, where she was involved many years in implementation of different types of information systems across their institution. Organizational readiness. I've got Allie Prest, who is just really wonderful to work with, listed there. She's been our lead in terms of sort of gathering the information of what's going on. But Allie is also a full-time professional in the division of ITS who is in a permanent position. And that's really great to have because I'll be honest with you, from my perspective, there will be a day when I will transition out of the project when we go into what we call sustainment. And Allie is going to be that permanent person who is leading our efforts through, again, what we call sustainment for full implementation. Communications is staffed by Samantha Hartman, who is the person behind the news and notes email you might recognize. Samantha is our internal communications manager and works with the vice president for communications and university relations. And then at the bottom, you see, we do have a special training team. Allie is also very much integrated into that team as well, because the information has to really feed the content being developed. And those three individuals, Jonathan, Arslan, and Tyler, have just been really great and are also with Deloitte, who are serving as consultants and training developers. You do see this sort of horizontal line here, change liaisons. And just to tell you a little bit about that, we've identified specific individuals in each of the different functional work streams throughout the project, so that they can serve as ambassadors in a way from those functional, technical, expert-driven work streams, like, again, to use financial aid or student financial statements, those kinds of things, curriculum development. And they are helping to make sure to feed information to our team. So, for example, as we develop training resources, that information flow is happening in a seamless way. So again, I said readiness, communications and engagement, and then training. So I'll talk a little bit about organizational readiness and in particular change impacts. So sorry, a second slide that please not expected to read, but it's because I just wanted to show you a visual of this instrument. This is our change impact inventory. This allows us to log in a systematic way discrete changes. Each line in this matrix, if you will, is an individual change that has been identified on multiple levels of what our current state is to what the new state is moving to. And again, this document is in development. It is organic many times as decisions are still talked through, but it's a way of us from a change management perspective to literally keep track on a very granular level every change that will be coming. Now, this is a little bit easier to read, and every line, every specific change, each of these columns corresponds to what you see up here. This just shows you what we're tracking for each individual change. The general topic, a description, which institutions it might be impacting, because as Clay said, this is a multi-institutional project. Also, what type of change, benefits and rationale, which obviously help with messaging for those kinds of things. Impact, right? The level of impact on campus. There are some changes that may impact literally a handful of individuals who do very specialized jobs in certain administrative offices. That has a lower scaled impact when you talk about on an institutional level. And so as we're talking about impact ratings, we also do have a system here. And again, I know this is pretty content dense, which we'll be more than willing to share this with anybody, but we do have basically a rating system, a scoring system of the level of impact, taking into account multiple factors. So the last thing I want to talk about in terms of organizational readiness, which again is that intake valve of information, which is just so important. This is one example of an exercise that happened on that front. And what we did was, the goal here was to meet with the university's current technical experts, those professional staff, for example, in the enrollment management areas, like admissions, like the financial aid office, individuals in the academic departments, who many of you here are probably familiar with. We call these departmental schedulers. They build out the classroom and teaching schedules. And then we also did talk to those individuals who were just embedded in our first Workday project, which was the roughly 2016 Go Live project, where we launched the human capital management system and the financial data model, because obviously there are lessons to be learned from those experiences. So we wanted to glean some insights from there. So that brings on the second part that we'll talk about, which is communications. We've talked about readiness, now communications. The timeline that Clay showed you is really what guides our communications planning, right? We're currently working on a second iteration of our detailed communications plan. And I like to refer to it as kind of a multi-layered plan where we're starting really with the university's registration and academic calendar and things like the holiday schedule, planning that throughout through 2025. And then on top of that, what are those big Workday moves to production and business milestones? As Clay said, there's a staggered approach. It's not going to be just one day everything is turned on in the new system. And then how does that work in tandem with the training plan? So in my mind, what I want is a calendar on that shows every day what's going to be happening so that we can then know what do we need to be communicating on this day, because we've got this particular launch coming up and we've got to do this particular training with a certain group and individuals who are going to be doing a particular function. So again, I think Robin and Clay would probably say we're right at the end of what they call the architect and configure phase, and we're launching into the testing phase. I won't go through all the details on this slide, but it just shows you some of those goals in terms of communications that we'd like to achieve based on the phases that we're in. We also want to make sure that we are being comprehensive in the different audiences that we're communicating with. So this shows you an example of some of those. We've got our Workday project team. So those are the individuals who on a daily basis are in these sessions to try to build and configure the new system. You see leadership here. This is one of those examples of engaging with different leadership groups, and then also end users of faculty and staff. Similar slide just shows you that we are committed and excited, frankly, to leverage the different communications media that are available to us. You have likely seen email communication as being probably the primary mode of communication thus far because of where we're at on the project. These have been broader level kinds of updates, but we are starting to get into more specific topics that are particularly going to be featured in the Provost's monthly academic affairs newsletter, and then also in that news and notes email that we get typically on Fridays. And also, I just want to say, there is a dedicated Workday student website. You all are probably familiar when you're doing things involving, let's say, an expense report or turning in leave. If you need any assistance and look at a job aid, there's an existing Workday site. That Workday site is for the human resources and financial activities that we're all doing right now. Right currently, this site that I'm showing you is a standalone site. It links to the other one, but right now this is a separate site just for the Workday student project because it's not live yet, but we want to start putting resources on there, and we have started, about where we're at on the project. Ultimately, you're going to see a robust training plan that I'll talk about in just a minute, and this is where you're going to find that. So now to talk about the third part of that sort of three-dimensional change management effort. This is training. And, you know, in some of that some of those organizational readiness activities that I talked about a little bit earlier, just to give you an example of some of the key findings, one critical thing that we've heard time and time again is that we need a terminology crosswalk. What we have been calling certain things in our student information system as it exists now are called different things within the Workday student system. And so that translation table, if you will, is one of the critical priorities that we have in terms of a training perspective. The other thing is that we need to make sure people have indicated, based on different surveys that we've done in focus groups, they like having job aids, which you all are probably familiar with, which typically take the form of an accessible PDF. We need accessible job aids so that individuals can have a clear roadmap to get from where they want to go to the completion of a certain task. Some of those are more complicated than others, but it allows self-paced learning. And then finally, this was interesting to me in terms of those more live, whether it's in person or virtual trainings, that overall tracking participation in those trainings is effective and allows morale and goodwill for, and this is more those individuals who are going to be really in the system doing technical things like your department schedulers or your advisors. But we want to be careful. And I'll just be perfectly transparent here. We want to be careful with the use of post-training assessments because not every type of training requires that. Now, there are some very specialized and high impact activities in the system that will probably require some kind of a post-training assessment to sort of pass the test to be able to do it. Some possible examples that involve like financial aid packaging, as those have such really kind of immediate and significant consequences for students. And then this is what I think is really cool about training, what I'm super excited about, is that the training plan overall is taking an approach, it's taking a curriculum-based approach. So depending on your role and what you do here at the university, we are developing individual and specialized curricula of different courses that you would take for what you need to get the information that you need to be trained on what you need to do. And the rollout of those different curricula, you can see here, again, we're echoing the timeline. It does certainly hinge on what different parts of the new system are going to be coming live. So in closing, if I could just say this, to speak on behalf of our change management team, we are absolutely committed to, frankly put, getting this right. It's what our people, it's what our students, our staff, and our faculty, those of you sitting here in this room, it's what this institution deserves. And we are completely dedicated to ushering this change through. So thank you very much.
About the update. Well, thank you so much for your time. Well, this concludes our meeting. Just as a reminder that our next meeting is going to be at the Law Center, not here, and calendar invitations are to follow. It's going to be on March 18th. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Everyone is seconding? Okay, so we're adjourned. All those in favor, please say aye.